So again, hi everyone, I'm Susanne Harnett, and I'd like to welcome you to our new Metis Connects webinar. As you know, Metis works with arts education clients around the country. We've had the incredible opportunity over the years to see a variety of arts education projects take shape and grow. Among these are arts internship programs, which we've noticed are recently expanding around the country. So today we've invited three wonderful program teams to talk about their art internship programs. The programs vary in geography, size, and tenure, but we also have noticed some great commonalities across the programs as well. And we thought this webinar would be a great opportunity to hear more about these programs, including some foundational information about who the programs serve, where they're located, and how long they've operated. So we've asked our presenters also to describe the goals of their programs, as well as if they currently have any evaluation processes in place to assess whether and the extent to which they're meeting their goals. We're particularly excited about leveraging our connections with a variety of arts education programs to provide a space for sharing and learning. And we hope this webinar provides this space today. So before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone to please mute your phones or computers to limit noise and distractions, and to post any questions that you have in the chat. We're going to also have one poll shortly, and we ask you to participate in it. Finally, we encourage you to introduce yourselves in the chat by writing your name and organization now. All right, here we go. Also, I just want to note that in order to help you remember everything that's shared today, we're recording this session, and we're going to send you the link to review at a later time or for you to share with your colleagues. All right. So today's webinar is brought to you by the Metis Arts team, and I'd like to just quickly introduce our members to you. I'm Susanne Harnett, and I've been leading the arts team for the past 15 years or so. Arts education is a particular passion for me, and combined with my enthusiasm for education research and evaluation, leading this team has been one of my particular pleasures. Also on the team include Matt Klepfer, Research Assistant here at Metis, Lori Ramsey, Senior Associate, Erin Weinbaum, Project Support Manager, Joy Zakaria, Senior Research Associate, and Marilyn Zlotnick, Chief Operating Officer. I'd like to take the time now to thank each member of this team for the work in putting together today's webinar. Please feel free to contact any one of us with questions or ideas in the future. Okay, so now we'd like to hear a little bit more about you. You're going to see a poll on your screen in just a second. So if you could just tell us which job title best represents your role at your current organization. All right, wonderful. So it looks like we really have a nice mixture of various kinds of individual roles here at participating. So that's wonderful. All right, so let's get started. I'd like to also just really jump into our main event. So what we're going to do today is first we're going to meet our panelists. Then each panelist will have about 10 minutes to discuss their program. And Metis's Lori Ramsey will be keeping careful track of our time and giving 2-minute warnings to our presenters. And then finally, we'll have some time for questions and answers. Okay, so our first presenters will be Tom Cahill and Jared Cardenas of Studio Institute. Tom is Studio Institute's president and CEO, and Jared has been serving as a program manager at Studio. Next, we'll have Emily House from Young Audiences Arts for Learning. Emily serves as Young Audiences Director of Marketing and Communications. And last but not least, we have Ann Henderson and Brandy Coates from the FRIST Art Museum in Nashville, Tennessee. Ann is the FRIST Director of Education and Engagement, and Brandy is their Engagement Coordinator. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our first panelists, Tom Cahill and Jared Cardenas from Studio Institute. Studio's internship program has actually been implemented since 1999, and Metis has had the privilege of conducting an evaluation of it for the past 5 years or so. Tom and Jared, I'm hoping that you can tell us a little bit more about your program and its goals. And I'm going to allow you, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share now.
Thank you, Suzanne. And our presentation will include Jared really sharing the details of the programs and some of the nice documentation. And I'll just start by introducing you to Studio Institute, which is one of the 2 studio and a school companies. And we have learned so much from this research that we've done with Metis and helped us, I guess, really to continue to refine the work and to better serve students. And I just know the work we've done with Suzanne and the team has really helped us expand our work to all the cities. So with that said, I'm happy to be here. The Institute shares learning from studio in a school, develops programs with schools and communities, and brings the kind of artistic career paths to students across the country. So Jared.
Looks like Jared may have dropped for a moment, but he's back. So we might just need to give him a second.
I am sorry about that. All right. So sorry, Tom, I didn't hear the end of your opening because I got booted for a sec. But you did meet Tom, who's the president of Studio Institute and who directly oversaw the Arts Intern Program for its first 20 years, after which I became the manager of the Arts Intern Program. And a little bit about Studio Institute. We're part of a larger organization called Studio in a School. It was founded 45 years ago by Agnes Gund, which may be a familiar name to many of you. The idea was to create art education programs that served underserved communities in New York City. And in 2016, the Studio Institute was founded with in part the purpose of taking some of these successful program models and replicating them elsewhere. And the first program that we started doing this with was the Arts Intern Program. So since its beginnings in New York City in 1999, it's expanded over the last 5 or 6 years to 8 cities in 8 different states. And we even got to send a group of interns to the Venice Biennale in Italy a few years ago. It served more than 700 interns at over 100 institutions. And part of the things part of the evaluation we've been doing with Metis has included a longitudinal study following up with alumni of the program. And of the ones who responded to that, we found that over 2/3 have continued to work in related occupations, and almost 3/4 have reported that their experience in Arts Intern was directly relevant to the work that they're still doing today. This is just an example of some of the organizations that we've worked with across different cities, but we've worked with large museums, small museums, art museums, history museums, science museums, and also some arts and cultural organizations that aren't museums either. So there's really a wide variety of organizations that we work with and departments within those organizations. This is a quick video that we cut together with just sharing the voices of some interns and their supervisors. And I am going to just make sure that you'll hear the sound. Okay, you will. Oops.
So this was not only the best internship I've participated in, but also like my best work experience.
This program in particular seemed so dedicated to making sure we had a really great experience.
I felt comfortable and supported.
I've been connected to so many amazing people. It's unbelievable.
Being in this internship, it really solidified my decision in going into museum studies.
I did my research, I presented it to the exhibition team,
they green-lighted it.
This workshop that I've created takes participants on a reflective journey.
I was also able to have hands-on experience with installing artwork.
I really learned about how to let kids discover what they already know instinctively, instead of just trying to teach them and force them to learn things.
I think it's the first time that I really did something and thought, oh, I can see myself actually doing this in the future, instead of, oh, this is like a good thing to add to my resume.
My interview with Autumn was able to get published, and this was one of my first official publishing experience.
There's this element of collaboration that was really vital to my experience.
She's compiled all of this background work that really helps us situate this site much better archaeologically.
I think the work that Nancy researched and dived into enhanced overall how Third Space is executing our upcoming programming.
Brooke was really great. I mean, Brandywine is small, and this is the first time we've had an archiving and registry job, so she really helped us get that department up off the ground.
Alani did great, and I think everyone that she worked with at the museum was really glad to have her there and was really happy with her work too.
Because of the virus, our exhibit schedule for the next year has changed drastically. So we actually decided to use Teresa's work and turn it into a short exhibition at the museum.
I felt like I was actually prized as an intern.
I had a lot of fun with the work that I did, and I learned a lot.
I think that this has definitely helped shape what I would like in a work environment.
This experience has kind of opened up my eyes to a wider range of possibilities.
I really felt like I came out with a new skill set and also just like more confidence.
It really has changed my mind about my opportunities and what I'm capable of.
So our goals in this program are probably similar to a lot of our other panelists. One key to an internship program is career readiness, making sure that interns come out of this program feeling better equipped and prepared to pursue a future career.
I think the best thing this internship has given me is direction. I feel really refined in what I want to be doing once I graduate. This internship just opened up a lot of possibilities to me, and I know they exist, but it's like the first time these possibilities seem open to me as an individual.
And to Kate's last point, something that's been a key part of this program from the beginning has been the issue of access and equity. It's a paid internship program, and we've wanted to make sure that it goes to students who are from very low income backgrounds. And also because we're working in cities and just due to broader social inequities, the large majority of interns who take part in the program are interns of color as well, and often interns who haven't had any experience in this field before. So this is really giving them their step into getting that.
This is my first time. First of all, it's my first time getting paid more than minimum wage. And it's my first time working like not in a retail or like on campus type of job. It's my first like real world experience type of job. And I would have never told myself that this was something that I could do in the long run. But after completing the program and going through it all, I feel like I have a lot more faith in myself and what I'm capable of, despite where I came from.
And as we'll look at in a little bit, the interns do real projects that matter within the organization. So they're lending meaningful support to the museums as well.
We got to meet a couple of times every day, and it was a wonderful experience, and I think all of you who have interns know that this is great, and maybe next year we can all do this in person. So we look forward to seeing more of Asia in future.
I'll just add that Asia was fantastic, and her project would have taken us months to complete, and she was able to do it very quickly and efficiently, so we were very lucky to have her.
And as you can tell from that, interns work. Whoops.
I'm sorry, this is Lori Ramsey. I'm your 2-minute timekeeper to let you know there's 2 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. I'll actually skip the last clip, but as you can tell, interns are working closely with their supervisors and other colleagues and forming a mentorship relationship as well. So all of our students are rising juniors and seniors pursuing a bachelor's degree. They're undergraduate students. They're all from the cities that their organizations are are located. They either reside there or attend school there, and they all have an expected family contribution under $5,000 indicated on their FAFSA student aid report. The program, as I mentioned, is paid. It pays more than minimum wage, so it varies by city a little bit. It's a 9-week program, June through August. Interns work at their host sites for 4 days a week, and 1 day a week is dedicated to programming that's run by Studio Institute. And so that includes some written assignments and reports and group events, and also talks with museum professionals. So this is an example of some of the events that we've been able to do virtually the last couple of years, bringing all the interns across the country together to meet professionals from all across the country as well. And it's been really exciting to also sometimes be able to talk to interns who did this program maybe 15 years ago and are now working in a museum and hear about their experience. Really quickly, a few examples. We had an intern just this summer, Winston, who worked at the Cleveland Museum of Art in their conservation department, and he was creating frame liners for paintings in their galleries. And so he was learning how to create them from scratch and how to gild them as well. And these, as you can see, are pieces that are all hanging in the gallery.
The most impactful experience I've had was definitely talking with a lot of conservators, getting a feel for what the field is like and how to even pursue it within graduate school. And then I had a great time working with you guys. Opening my eyes to this field. Conservation science is something that I'm looking into a lot. And so just thank you for everything. Yeah.
And again, undergraduate student, I believe he's going into his junior year at that point. This is at the Brooks Museum of Art.
Yeah. We're at time, so I don't know how much longer you have on your.
Okay. No,
Jared, maybe we can stop at this point, but I think to summarize our approach, we're really interested, and I'm sure we all will talk about this today, in the quality of engagement in any internship, the kinds of relationships that are going to be in the place where you put a high school or a college intern, and also the kinds of ways that it actually supports a journey, a life journey that's more connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jared and Tom. I appreciate it. There's so much to say. Your program has been, going for so long, and you guys have done so much with it. One thing that Jared didn't mention is that he actually is an alumnus of the program as well, and so has that unique perspective on it. So I'm going to just share my screen again, and next we're going to hear from Emily House from Young Audiences to hear about their internship program. And as a national organization with local affiliates, the Young Audience program also has some unique aspects and opportunities. And like Jared, Emily has an insider perspective on the program as an alumna of it herself. Emily?
Thank you, Suzanne. So I am Director of Marketing Communications for the Young Audiences Arts for Learning national organization. I also oversee Young Audiences Internship Program and was a former Young Audiences intern in 2013. Then I returned to YA as a full-time staff member a few years later in 2017. So I'm excited to share some perspectives, both from the intern's point of view and now as the supervisor of our program. So looking at the next page, I'll share just a bit of background about Young Audiences Arts for Learning. We are a national network of arts education organizations, originally founded in Baltimore in 1952 as a means to bring the arts into classrooms that didn't have as much access to the arts, specifically originally focusing on music and then expanding to include all arts disciplines. Today, we have around 30 affiliated organizations around the country that collectively reach 25 states, working with over 4,000 teaching artists every year. We bring arts integrated learning to over 5 million students each year. So as a network, our collective goal is both to foster creative artistic expression for young people, but also to illuminate learning across all subject areas. So I work for the national organization, which functions as sort of the national headquarters of our network. We aim to lift up best practices and provide support to our affiliates and facilitate collaboration across the network. So I will first dive into our internship program at the national office. And then if there's time, I'll share a quick glimpse into a handful of other fantastic internship programs offered by some of our affiliates across the network. So in the next slide, participants in our internship program at the national office are typically current students, either at the undergraduate or the graduate level. In my case, I completed my YA internship as part of my graduate studies in arts administration. We've also hosted some recent grads, but typically we host students who are, currently in school and earning school credit for their internship. Participants also earn a stipend to make sure all their, commuting costs and whatever other expenses they need to complete the work for YA are covered. Our internship program is small and enrolls up to 2 interns per semester. A benefit of this scale is that it really allows us to keep the experience very highly individualized for each student. So our process is at the start of each semester, we will meet with each intern and together decide with them on their title for that role and collaborate together and agree on a job description that as much as possible aligns with their own interests and goals while still providing a well-rounded experience for the internship. At that meeting, we also assign a core project that the intern will work on throughout the whole semester. And when selecting the project, we're looking for something really substantive that they can take with them, something that they'll be able to point to on a resume or in a portfolio as work product that they owned and they shaped and can say was, their own doing. During my experience as an intern, I was very keen to learn about web design and user experience. So in my capacity as the communications intern, my project was actually to take translate a written curriculum and bring it into the online format for teaching artists across the country to use in the Drupal content management system. So it was valuable for me to be able to link to it on a resume when looking for my next position. Other recent examples, we had a recent graduate student who interned with us who was also an interpreter and had a real passion for accessibility. She joined us as the programming and accessibility intern, and her culminating project was to research best practices around website accessibility and to make recommendations to us regarding how we can improve compliance with the web content accessibility guidelines across our portfolio of websites that we manage. So the implementation of her research is ongoing across our sites. Another example is a student who was really interested in technology as well as event planning, was in charge of creating our conference app. So big diversity of projects that interns come to us and complete. On the next page, when it comes to evaluating the success of an internship experience, here are some of the key questions that we ask ourselves. So on an individual basis, how have they grown over the course of the semester? Are they understanding and complying with professional workplace expectations? Are they taking greater initiative? Are they more comfortable by the end, contributing in staff meetings? We also look at what work product or skills did they learn during their time with us that they can point to on a resume? So this correlates directly to that project-based model. And we also try and be mindful of this when building each internship job description with the student. We view an intern's interest in working for YA after graduation as a sign that the program is successful and a worthwhile substantive internship experience. That was certainly the case for me, and I wish we could hire more of the interns that come through our program. And then, are they successful in building careers in the arts education field? The hope is that their experience at YA help prepare them for the next steps in their career. And ideally, we'd love to see them working in arts education or a related field, but perhaps that also means working in the job function that they support for us, such as communications, development, or accessibility within a different field. In my experience, after my internship, I actually went on to get a job working in marketing and web design for a large entertainment-focused law firm. where I worked for almost 4 years. And I actually shared my internship online curriculum project when applying for that job, and helped the law firm design their new website, as well as supporting communications around the firm's pro bono work. So then, always had YA in the back of my mind, where I'd had a great experience, and where I felt like, my professional growth as an intern was really prioritized, and where I'd enjoyed really feeling part of the team. So ended up heading back to the nonprofit world in YA a few years later. And then last slide here, Young Audiences affiliates around the country also offer some really incredible internship programs, and I'll share just a few details about just a handful. So Arts for Learning Miami in Miami, Florida, offers a 6-week paid summer internship programs focused for specifically Florida high school students. They focus on both the creative, artistic, and professional development of high school students. Through that program, interns join an artistic sort of co-op of their choice, either visual or performing, and also learn key workforce development skills, focusing on writing workshops, resume development, public speaking, and wealth management.
Emily, 2 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. Then moving on to Baltimore, Arts for Learning Maryland, formerly Young Audiences of Maryland, offers a 7-week full-time paid internship each summer for specifically rising seniors in Baltimore City public high schools. The program focuses on helping students prepare to apply for and transition to college through professional development, strengthening communication skills with the help of writing coaches and college mentors, while helping them develop knowledge and connection to the city's arts and cultural offerings. And then lastly, the Center for Arts Inspired Learning, our affiliate in Cleveland, Ohio, offers a multidisciplinary arts-based apprenticeship program offered to sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school. They're enrolled as paid apprentices to train under the guidance of a master teaching artist. In this spring, they're offering illustration, hip hop, emceeing, step, and mixed media portraits as the artistic focuses. And then the teens also engage in weekly PD sessions led by local business leaders focused on mock interviews, entrepreneurship, phone, Zoom, and email etiquette, good one, and financial literacy. So if you want to learn more about any of these affiliate programs or about ours at the national office, I'd love to be in touch. On the next slide, my email is very easy, emily@ya.org. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. That was really helpful. It's great to see already the connections, both in terms of implementation, looking at a project-based, work over the course of the period of the internship, as well as some of the outcomes that you're looking for. So that's super helpful, and to hear about your own experience, Emily. So finally, we're going to hear from Brandi Coates and Ann Henderson from the FRIST Museum in Nashville. The FRIST program is locally based at the museum and has evolved over the years. And a commonality across the 3 programs presented here today is that Brandy is also an alumna of the program. So Brandy and Ann.
All right.
There we go. Yeah. Sorry, I had to find my unmute, but sorry, we're ready now. So yeah, if you want to go to our first slide, Suzanne.
Sure.
So we are so pleased to be here and be presenting with Studio Institute and Young Audiences. And so thank you, Metis, for inviting us to be here and talk a little bit about our internship program at the FRIST. So as Suzanne has said, I'm Ann Henderson, Director of Education and Engagement, and I'm joined with my colleague, Brandy.
Yes, and I'm Brandi Coates, the engagement coordinator here at the FRIST Art Museum in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right. So let me just tell you a little bit about the FRIST. We are located in the renovated historic post office, the main post office located in downtown Nashville, and we are celebrating our 21st anniversary on April 8th. We opened in 2001, and we are a little unique in that we are a non-collecting art institution that is charged with bringing art of the world to Nashville. So without a permanent collection, we bring in special exhibitions. Our vision has been the whole time is really to inspire people through art to look at their world in new ways. And we do this through our mission, which is providing high quality exhibitions that are often organized by our own staff, or we bring them from other institutions here, and then present related education and community engagement activities and programs. So on our next slide, just to give you a little bit about, Susanne, if we can go to the next slide there we go. Just a little bit about one of our mandates since the inception of the FRIST has been to serve our local community, which is Davidson County, which is Nashville, all of our residents and our youth in particular. So we are free as an institution for anyone who is 18 years of age and younger. And we've always had a strong commitment and dedication to Metro Nashville Public Schools and all of the other educational institutions in Davidson County. This has been done in various ways throughout the years. But as we know today, we're going to focus on our internship program. But I wanted to look and just give you a quick snippet on some of our earlier other programs that relate to high school and college student career exploration. Our staff has participated in or created experiential learning programs that provide opportunities to meet with professionals in the field and discuss career paths and possibilities. So this has happened particularly for high school students with career fairs that we do for 9th grade students for all Metro Nashville Public School students, or job shadow opportunities, as well as volunteer opportunities for anyone who's 14 years of age and up. We also, I think, which is nice, have supported some local universities on their inclusion programs, on working with students that need individualized program and opportunities to achieve their career goals as well. So we've been lucky to participate in 2 of those. So in our next slide, Susanne, just to give you a little bit more about the internship program in particular, our first class of interns started on January 2002, so just 9 months after opening. And one of the factors in that decision to open the program was the number of universities that are located in Nashville. There are around 20 currently, colleges and universities, including MTS, Middle Tennessee State University, Vanderbilt, Belmont, as well as community colleges and 4 HBCUs, including Fisk, TSU, American Baptist, and Meharry Medical. So Nashville has another moniker besides Music City, which is Athens of the South. So certainly our focus on education has been important. Our college internship program is project-based learning and has followed that same format up until the past fall of 2021, when we moved to a paid internship program. The programs are similar to what you've been hearing already about establishing project-based learning, setting career goals with supervisors, having semester-long programs in various departments, working with staff, as well as working on exhibitions on specific programs. It has been all volunteer, or in some cases for college credit. We've also had a teaching assistant program that was available for students to really help us with education programs and studio experiences, and that was 2008 to 2019. I'm going to stop now and turn this over to my colleague, Brandy, who is an alumni of these programs. Brandy started in the high school program, the career exploration program, then became an intern, then a teaching assistant, and now she is our engagement coordinator and responsible for all these programs. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandy to go into more detail.
Thank you, Anne. Like she said, I basically came through their pipeline that fortunately they were able to set up, in which I am fortunate to be in the space where I am today. So Susanne, if you can go to the next slide. With our programs, we want to have a new look in developing the pipeline. So during the early part of 2021, we as an institution answered the call to action by investigating and combating inequities, which led to the reevaluation of our diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion strategic plan. To fulfill one of our main priorities, we began offering paid learning opportunities with the intent reflecting our community, developing future engagement with and investment in the FRIST Art Museum, as well as establishing a pipeline providing leadership training for diverse museum professionals. And you can go to the next slide and I explain our internships. Our internships have been one of our learning opportunities, as mentioned earlier. And as fall of 2021, we welcomed 4 paid interns in 4 of our museum departments: graphic design, exhibitions with a focus on curatorial work, communications, as well as education. During the internship, college students are introduced to exhibitions, programs, and skills in the respective departments that they have expressed interest in while also being exposed to different roles within a non-collecting museum. As mentioned earlier, we do not have our own collection, so we get exhibitions from all over the world as well as our local artists. We offer these opportunities each semester, which is fall and spring, which are 16 weeks and lasts about 128-hour commitment, with summer being 10 weeks for 80 hours. All right, and you can go to the next slide. And so along with our other learning opportunities, we were able to welcome our first fellowship. This one is a little more focused on the exhibitions and planning of our exhibitions within the curatorial and education departments. So along with this, there are some more focused lens on research, planning, implementation of an exhibition from fall to spring semester, so a full academic year. The work is deeply involved, as I said, in exhibitions and education, program development, and implementation. We offer these opportunities to more of our upperclassmen in college and university settings, so college seniors, those who are graduating and plan to enroll in graduate school, as well as our current graduate students. So as you can see in the image, we have our first fellow, which is Cy Clayton, a student from Middle Tennessee State University. And in our next slide.
Hey, Brandy, 2 minutes.
Yes. All right, cool. I'm almost done. So in our next slide, for our learning opportunities, we're more than just a place of working. We want to explore careers, those especially in areas they are interested in, and we engage our students in weekly staff conversations in which they are able to talk with different staff members within the museum for a full hour and have a candid conversation about what they do. We also want to build networking opportunities for rising established artists, museum professionals, experts, and scholars in their area of study. Lastly, we want to build a sense of camaraderie. They come in together learning and also come out with whether being friends, colleagues, or just someone that they can rely on as far as bouncing different ideas. Next slide. And so with this, we've definitely had some program praise. As you can see, there are some comments from our communications intern, but once comment I want to focus on is from our first exhibitions design intern, Lisa Burnett. She said when we asked her about the FRIST giving her a new perspective of her work, she said, "I appreciate it more. There is a deeper meaning behind everything because I see everyone actively working together, communicating, creating. Everyone has been so helpful and excited to share knowledge. So I am like a sponge right now. I can't wait to see what my contribution to the museum design world will be." And our last slide is what happens next. So definitely increasing the number of paid interns per semester, having 2 fellows by fall 22 or 23, and also increasing the candidate pool as well as applicant pool from students surrounding universities in Nashville, mainly those who are underrepresented. So quite a few of our HBCU students, as well as community college attendees. And that is all about our internships, as well as other learning opportunities we have at the FRIST Art Museum.
Thank you so much, Anne and Brandy. That was wonderful. And again, it strikes me how many commonalities there are across the programs, particularly, looking at access and inclusion, as well as really focusing on networking and the importance of peer connections, as well as potential, other professional connections. So wonderful. So I really want to thank each of the phenomenal presenters for the perspectives they've brought to this important work. And we want to open up the Q&A now. So Joy, I'm going to turn it over to you to see if there's any questions that have already been posted in the chat box for our presenters.
Great, thank you, Suzanne. No, there are no questions at this point in the chat box, but I do have some questions for the presenters that I think would be very helpful to the group. What recommendations do you have for other organizations interested in starting an internship program? Would any of the presenters like to take that question?
I think maybe perhaps our problem is we've all been doing this for so long, it's challenging to think about starting it. But I do think having connections with the universities for us has been really critical. And that was one of the first ways we really made the decision to go into the internship program and get it started, was really those collaborations with the local universities for us.
Thank you.
I might add on that having a network of people that believe interns can do more, and having those people become advocates that can speak for the value of doing this kind of work, because it's not everyone's dream to take on somebody, particularly a younger student. But the exchange is so meaningful for the participants. I think when you hear that, it draws other people who want to contribute. So it's something about the people that have to speak to grow the program.
Great. Okay.
Joy, I just want to note that Heather McCartney from the Joyce, hi Heather, has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you. My question is too long to type, so I'm glad I speak it out. Does anyone on the panel or within the chat ever extend internships to those interested in career transitions or others who are not attached to secondary or higher ed institutions?
I can take that one. Indeed, we have, for example, the student that we had that was an interpreter was looking to, get into arts administration and sort of marry her interest in accessibility with arts admin. And the internship program was a way for her to, see if she was interested in actually transitioning to the nonprofit world. And it was great to have her and be a part of, helping her make the jump back to arts administration.
That's one of the things I'm thinking about, is especially during COVID and layoffs and the Great Resignation and all of that, that artists, particularly artists, are looking at other careers, and they're not going the traditional route, and so thinking of opportunities that our organizations can offer beyond traditional students. So maybe that's a thing that is coming down the pike, or I was just curious as to whether anyone has already begun to do that or seen applications for internships that come from these particular community and population. It's not necessarily directed at you, Emily, but just open for conversation.
Well, I guess I just would say I agree with you that the college field is changing. I think nationally, colleges are under enrolled now by 3%, and particularly community colleges when you look at that. So maybe at some point, all of us have to consider ways to bring people back into work that motivates to go on and learn more. I think that our high school programs definitely have a focus, our internships, on seeing the value of being in college and to obtain what you want. But I think I think we're going to have other people that would have been in college that we're going to have to recruit back, perhaps. So it's a really interesting topic, Heather.
I have another question for Jared. We have a question. I'm wondering what kind of training Studio offers to mentors, given that they are not necessarily education professionals themselves.
Sure. So in this program, it's interesting because in our teen programs, we have like a specific role of mentor who are college students that we hire to act as mentors for our teens. And that was actually something that I did when I was in college. Through Arts Intern, the college program, when we talk about mentors, we're usually talking about the supervisors that they work directly with at those organizations. So if they're a curatorial intern, they may be working with one of the curators or an assistant curator or something like that, and they'll form that close relationship as a mentor. And the way that really works is one, before we even start collecting the applications from organizations for what internships they want to propose and host, we host a meeting with them that talks about what kind of internships we're looking to create, what kind of investment it's going to take from both the intern and from the organization and the supervisor in order to make it work and make it the best experience for both of them. And so we try to do that to set them up to design an internship that will really support that kind of interaction. And then also, once the internship starts, there's a big orientation event where every intern and every supervisor is required to attend. And so in one way, it's like a typical orientation in that we open up talking about the program, we go through the handbook, talk about the expectations and guidelines and all of that. But like half of the event is just dedicated to interns and supervisors. We're about to do one later this afternoon. Interns and supervisors sitting together, looking at the plan for the internship, the overall project, and a week-by-week timeline that they actually lay out in their proposal, and going through it and making sure that they understand how it's supposed to play out and get any questions in there. And then we're there at the event too to support that conversation as well. So from the beginning, before they do their proposals, we really try to encourage the kind of relationship that we're looking for between the intern and their supervisors. Then as we get started, we make sure that we're present for that conversation. And then we have our weekly check-ins to see how things are going at their sites each week and are able to address things on an individual basis as well. But that's sort of the extent of the training, if you want to call it that we do for the supervisors.
Any other questions?
Joy, I noticed that, and this might actually link right back to what you've just been talking about, Jared. I noticed that there's a question in the chat that says, what benefits have the organizations or the professionals who host the interns experienced?
I have an example that came to mind, which was, so as we've been mentioning, and everybody here, these are project-based internships, and we really want the interns to have their own level of agency and responsibility over what it is they're working on, and have something like one of their professional portfolio to point to and say, I did this as part of this program. And I'm thinking of an example in Cleveland. There's a very small organization called the Sculpture Center, and they interact with contemporary public artwork and sculpture in a number of ways. And there was a curatorial intern who had curated this was in the summer of 2019. She had curated 2 walking tours going through their database of sculptures in the city. She found pieces by artists of color, one that was all Latino artists and one that was all African-American artists. And she curated 2 like walking, driving tours that you could go to the Sculpture Center, download for yourself, and do at your own pace, see these pieces around the city, which is a nice little project for a little organization that was done in the summer of 2019. Now imagine it's the summer of 2020 and all the museums are shut down and you still want a way to experience artwork. And there is this huge national reckoning around race in all aspects of our lives. And here are these pieces, these downloadable online tours of contemporary artwork you can do to see works by artists of color, and it has information about the pieces as well. And she also that summer did one for Columbus, Ohio as well. And so there was a feature in Columbus, Ohio on their local news channel where they interviewed Destiny and her supervisor as well. And so it brought a lot of attention to this incredible project, which was a great project to begin with, but it became so relevant a year later. And they had these resources to share. And so that was one example that was really clear of something that an organization gained by having an intern do real substantial work and having that to offer as a resource to the public.
Sounds like an amazing program, yeah. So I don't know, Joy, if we have time, I could share really quickly one thought that's come to my mind is that with our teaching assistant program, we were able to have a student in who was studying art ed. She was able to develop some classroom activities and things, and then she went on to become an art teacher in one of our local school districts around Davidson County. But what's really was special about her was that she had also been one of our opportunities is to let students show their artwork here at the FRIST, and we do that in different school art show opportunities. And so she had participated in one. So as a K-12 student, she'd been a student having her artwork shown at the FRIST. Then she was a teaching assistant. Then she became an art teacher. And then she brought her students back when they were participating in a student art show. So what's really lovely, I think, for us as an institution is seeing that full life cycle of having these kids participate at a young age, having an in-depth experience with us, and then going on to careers and continuing the circle for us. So it's really been very special.
Wow, that's great. If we have a few,
about 5 minutes, everybody.
Okay, so there was a question in the chat that Jared had already answered, and I'd like the other two presenters, Emily and if you could respond to how your organization dealt with the challenges related to COVID. If you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Emily, you want to go? Or I don't see where you are. I'm sure you're on. Here you are, Emily.
Sure. So it's been challenging with regard to especially our internship program. And I'd say, something that comes to mind is, so much of what you learn as an intern is, it could even just be listening to the development manager on the phone 2 cubicles away and how they're talking to donors. That there are certain things that you aren't able to pick up on as easily through the virtual format. So I'd say that we're something that's been challenging, and we're doing our best to do is just make sure as much as possible we can create, pull them in on meetings in the virtual format and try and create as much as possible that same experience where they're learning by observing as well as the work they're doing. So,
yeah. I don't know, Brandy, do you want to answer for us to share how we pivoted to online?
Well, it was definitely a challenge pivoting our internship to online structure, but we did want to make sure that we, even though they weren't in the office or in the space to actually experience our galleries and also our just our work environment in general, that's why we introduced those staff meetings in which they were able to talk with different staff members, from the curator to our director and CEO, even our designers and some of our education staff. That way they can get a sense of like, okay, what is it about your job that makes it so unique, as well as what is some advice you can give us as students in college to help pivot or maneuver through the career pipeline, which is which is a very rare career pipeline for museum educators or those who want to get in museum education. And also just making sure that they are aware of each other, and especially in a virtual space, talking with each other, interacting, collaborating with different projects. Even though we have different departments in which interns are in, we do have some collaboration points in which they'll probably work on not only exhibition, but also talk with an intern, like how can we get the word out through social media and our public relations, and also what is it about development that we can utilize and helping fund how do we fund our exhibitions, how do we just different things that we try to make sure that not only interns are learning about the museum, but also about each other. So just learning as a collective, just like you're in class or summer camp, something that relates to just learning together.
Everybody, I think it's time to turn it back to Susanne because we are almost at time.
All right, thank you all again for sharing and for your questions. So just a few final things before we actually wrap up. We encourage you to share this with others. Again, we'll make the video available to you. We'll post a link to the webinar on our YouTube channel, and we hope that you will share with others in your network if you feel like they would benefit from the information as well. Also, please feel free to reach out to me or any of my Metis colleagues directly if you have any questions or want to be in contact with any of the presenters. And we'd love to know what you think about the webinar. So a feedback survey link is posted in the chat, and we just invite you to take a moment to let us know your thoughts. And I think that's all we have. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? All right, thank you again to everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to further Metis Connects events. So please be well, everyone, and thank you. Bye-bye.